Hey, you guys, we're going to be talking about a fun subject today. 3 signs you won't be wealthy. I think number 3 is my favorite. I can't decide. It's a toss-up today, but I think number 3 is my favorite. So y'all stick around for that one. So I'm going to jump in. I've got 3, just 3 today that I picked out. And it's hard for me to pick out a favorite when I only have 3. I think it may be number 3. Number 1 is right there, though. I'm like super close to saying number 1 is my favorite. All right, so what's number 1 today? Number 1 is rich people are lucky, and you don't like them. You know what? I mean, I've heard it. I've heard everything to say, oh, that guy's so lucky. I hate that saying. That guy's so lucky. He just got a lucky break, right? There's an old saying that says, luck is where opportunity and preparation meet. And if you listen to any of the people who are motivational speakers, Tony Robbins, even people like Will Smith, who does a lot of videos, a lot of live feeds and that sort of thing, talking about success and what it takes and all that sort of thing, you will know that so many people worked their whole life, worked for 10 years to then become an overnight success, right? To finally hit it, to finally have their idea, the invention that finally took off. They worked on all these different things for years and years and years, and they failed and they failed and they failed. But in reality, they weren't failing. They were just working their way towards success. That's the way it works. That's the way life works, right? Do you have the guy that hits the lotto, so to speak, on occasion and comes up with the overnight success? Yeah, I'm sure. Don't get me wrong. I'm sure it happens. Is that the norm? No. So rich people are not lucky. They didn't get there by luck. They got there typically through hard work, right? And the idea that people are just born into wealth and all that sort of thing, does that happen? Yes, it does happen. That's a very small percentage of the population. Most millionaires were made in their lifetime. They did it themselves. All right. So get that idea out of your head that rich people are lucky. And here's more importantly, if you have a disdain for rich people. Now, folks, I really want to kind of harp on this and maybe step on some toes here, right? If you have a disdain for rich people, you like to kind of blame situations on the wealthy, right? Well, if the wealthy only paid their fair share of taxes, folks, look at the percentages paid. The top 10% pay 90% of all the taxes. I don't know how much more fair you can get than that, all right? They're already paying a buttload of taxes. So stop complaining about all of the breaks and benefits and whatever else that rich folks have, because I tell you what, all you're doing is training your subconscious mind to say, I do not want to be wealthy. If you are complaining about the rich all the time, why in the world would your subconscious mind ever let you become rich? That's the last thing your subconscious mind would want to do. Oh, I accidentally turned my volume on there. That's the last thing your mind would want to let you do, is become successful, if all you're doing is complaining about successful people all the time. Number 2. Now this one, I'm going to tell you guys in advance right now, you're going to have to hear me out before you get all offended, because there's an opportunity to be offended here right off the bat. You listen to everything your parents say. All right. What does that mean? This is what I mean. Both my parents were middle lower income individuals, and they both worked hard and that sort of thing. There was a lot I did learn from them, but neither of them were wealthy, nor did either of them have a wealthy mindset, right? And if they haven't achieved it, then I have to be very suspect and careful about what information I take in from them. For instance, the old mantra of go to college, get a good job, and you'll be fine is not always true anymore, right? My dad had a behavior of saving every penny he ever made, wonderful, and then just doing things like paying cash for a car. Okay, not terrible if you did that right, if there was some strategy there and how you applied that. However, he never bought investments. He never bought things that created returns for him. So he just saved up his cash and then spent it on depreciating value, depreciating items, right? And so consequently, he couldn't give me any advice and direction on learning how to acquire assets that earned income, right? I can't be taking advice. I can't take advice in that situation when my parents really don't have any advice to give me in that way. Mom had lots of advice to give me. She had a lot of fun. She grew up on the streets and she grew up in a very hard life. So she could give me some advice on tough mindset, but not necessarily success mindset. So be careful about who you take advice from, right? That's number 2, right? And number 3 kind of is right on the piggyback, right on top of that, is people easily make you feel guilty. Whew. Now listen to that one, folks. That's a tough one. I'm talking about parents. I'm talking about spouse. I'm talking about boyfriends or girlfriends or whatever you may have, that when they start chiming in with things like, you work too hard, all you do is think about your business or whatever. Now, we'll be the flip side of that and say, again, I'm not talking about ignoring your family. I'm not talking about ignoring balance and all that sort of thing. But I'll give you an example. The first business I launched, I let my wife know. I said, look, for the next 2 years, I'm going to be working an inordinate amount of time, right? A lot, because the first 2 years were really the grind. When I'm really building the layers, building my network, building my connections. And I'm going to have to focus on that in order to get where I want to go. And I need you on board with me for the next 2 years. Now, see, we discussed it. We created a realistic time frame and had that dialogue. Now, if the whole time, every time I came home, every night, she was saying, I just wish you wouldn't work that hard. I'm like, hey, we talked about this, right? If we were constantly fighting, that she's killing my energy, she's bringing me down, she probably wouldn't have been the right girl for me, right? Now, some folks, hey, if being a worker and doing the 9-to-5 thing is your gig, nothing against that. There's nothing against that, right? I have the entrepreneurial bug. I could not work for somebody if I tried. I have to build. It's part of my DNA. And so thankfully, I have a wife who's very supportive of that. And now we're looking at buying a business for her, right? Building another asset. And she's going to be dedicating a lot of time. Now, thankfully, it's an established business. The kids are older, so there's less, my daughter's 18 and son's 14, so they need less time. They are able to take care of themselves a lot. So we're looking at buying a business for her so she can build. And she's going to be spending a good amount of time. Probably not the first 2 years because the business is already established and we're just taking it over. We're doing a leverage buyout. But anyway, my point is that you can't have people making you feel guilty in your life. If you're walking around with the burden of other people's guilt that they've chunked on you, I promise you, that's not something that wealthy people do. I have a vision. I know where I want to head. I shared that with my spouse. We talked it through. We're on the same page, and she's my biggest cheerleader, right? Because let me tell you, it's hard being an entrepreneur. It is hard building a business. And the last thing you need is the person who should be one of your greatest support mechanisms tearing you down, right? You can't be buried under other people's guilt, right? You just can't. And that's not something that people that are wealthy do, right? And you learn that the older you get, you have less tolerance for that kind of stuff. You cut people off that are like that. And I just don't have negative people in my life. That's a pretty serious deal. What is a sure sign that you're like, I know that person won't be wealthy? Just because of a behavior, a characteristic, an attitude that they have that is just really counterproductive to success, to building wealth, to building a successful business, whatever it may be that we're talking about here. I'm talking about entrepreneurship, so that's what my focus is. But whatever you're looking at, it's an attitude or behavior that you know is counterproductive to being successful. Let me know what your thoughts are, guys. And then, like I said, share the video, get it out there with your friends, and ask them the same question. What is a sure sign that a person won't be successful? Share that in the comment feed, get people talking about it, dialoguing about it, and let's push all our friends to greater success in life. Thank you for being a part of my life and tuning into these videos. Hope you find them useful. I'm out.